Thank you for tuning into this episode of Walden Art. And today I'm going to be doing an art review and critique for one of my patrons who subscribed to one of my mentorship tiers over on my page at Patreon. To learn more about my Patreon page is patreon.com/WaldenWongArt. Over there, there's different tiers that you can show support. You can also see images and tips of how I do inking and a lot of things that I post about inking critiques and techniques and what I'm working on, and a lot of fun things that I don't post anywhere on social media that I post exclusively on Patreon. So check that site out. I'll list all of those things below my video description. So click on the link and check that out. And for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Walden Wong. I'm a comic book artist for Marvel and DC Comics. I've been doing comics for quite some time. And you can check out my work over on my website. My website is waldenwongart.com. And over there, you see a gallery, shop, some of the books that I worked on that you can order directly from Amazon, as well as some of the art supplies I've ordered. You can order things from that. And also a print and original art store where you can order directly from me, and I will ship it all over the world to you. So today we're doing a art review for one of my patrons. His name that he submitted a Batman piece. His name is Mark, and the Batman he submitted was a pencil by I don't know who the name, Adrian Serif, I believe. But without further ado, let's check out the inks that he's done, and we'll be critiquing the work. Okay? Alright, so here's the Batman piece. Before we look at the pencils, before we look at the inks, we're going to look at the pencils first, just to see how the pencil looks that he used. So here's the pencils, the raw pencils that the penciler drew. We're going to take a quick scan. We're going to take a quick look at the Batman piece. The Batman piece is penciled fairly rarely. Some of these, this is the back area, and then the pencil would draw in some white area. I'm going to take a peek at how the inker, how Mark actually did it. So Mark didn't actually ink in some of those white lines over here. So yeah, he just made it all black. So that's one thing that you need to make sure. So sometimes when a penciler is writing all of this stuff over here, he's actually going in here and putting in all the pencil stuff, but he wants those to be white, but he doesn't want to like erase it. So that's one thing that you need to do later on to fix it. Let's take a look at the rest of the pencils. Okay, there's the pencils, and let's look at the inks. Okay, so some of the lines over here you're also missing. So for example, like these tick lines over here. I'm gonna grab a I'm gonna unlock this layer so I can circle the areas I'm talking about. So some of these are like little tick lines, like dirt lines, that the same lines like this. So when you inked it, you actually inked the lines over here, but you didn't ink any of the lines on the Batman. So we do need to see some of those lines. So I'm gonna go in here and reduce the opacity on this one so we can see it a little better. Here's the Batman piece. Here's your ink version. You should go in there and ink these lines over here. So I'm going to go in here and ink some of the lines right here. Just go in there and click like this. Ink some of these lines like that. So I want you to go in there and ink those lines a little bit better. Re-ink some of them, and they should be okay. And we're going to take a look at the inks now. So we already saw the pencils. Actually, let me take a look at the pencils on some of the backgrounds. See how the penciler went in there and draw this. Okay, so there's some noodling in here. There's some hatch lines that slowly bleeds. You just filled it all in black. You should kind of like noodle that in. So I'm going to start inking. I'm going to start explaining what areas that can be done quick, well, a little bit at a time. So first thing, we look at the line weights. The line weights are done pretty nicely. I like how you break up the lines over here. The line where there's no ink lines, and then right here you went thicker and then you broke up the line. That's always done well. This area can be done a little bit thicker over here, and then bounce the line weights around. The more you can bounce the line weights, the better your object will look. Anytime you have an object that's bouncing, like for example this area, the area that slopes downwards should be a little bit thicker. So I would actually make these areas a little bit thicker, just like what you did here. This is very good, how you have the shoulder a little bit thicker here. The same, if you have that shoulder thicker, I would actually beef up this line over there. We continue looking at the line weights, the holding line of the character. So right over here, we can actually make this line a little bit thicker here. And here, this white line, I would actually fill this in a little bit thicker. Okay, you did a halo here, which is very good. When I create a halo, I'm going to use black. I'm going to use white ink over here. let's use white so I can show you what I would do with the halo. When I do a halo, I try not to make line weights with the halo. I want my halo to be like a flat dead line. So that said, I would actually go in here and make this a consistent halo that goes across all the way. If you're haloing something, make sure you halo all the way across. So make sure this one goes all the way up there. And then back over here, we have a little speck here. Make sure that same thickness is consistent all the way around if you're haloing something. Okay, now if you halo the whole Batman, you make sure you halo the rest of it. Okay, otherwise it wouldn't make sense. Okay, so I will halo right here. Halo is a white line that separates the two black area. Sometimes you have a line there, I would just halo this. It's only because you haloed that part of the Batman. Okay, let's look at the other side. Same thing, like right over here, I see you haloing the fist over here, but the bottom of the fist, there's no halo. Okay, you should actually halo like the whole figure. If you're haloing one part of the figure, make sure you halo the whole other part. Same thing over here. Like here's this. It doesn't really make sense why it's like that. I'll actually go in there and kind of like fix up the rest of it, and then kind of make that halo bleed and fade into the black a little bit. Okay, so we see the rest of the body. Okay, now over here, when we take a look at the pencils, we see that there's some crosshatch lines. So it's not like black. The penciler actually wanted you to go in from like a light area into a gradation and into a black area. So in here, I'm just going to use white ink, and I'm just going to break up some of that white area like this for the background. So that looks a little bit better right over there. Okay, I'm going to circle this so we see the areas that I worked on. So when I send this back to you, you'll see. Some of these lines, these speed lines here, let's take a look at the pencils. Okay, the pencilers didn't do it. You did it, which is pretty nice, but I would still taper those lines kind of like flat in there. Make it a little bit sharper. Okay, just put little pixel image size. Let me make the resolution a little bit higher. The resolution is kind of small right now. So if I boost up the resolution, the lines will work small. So when you save the pencils and the inks, it was a little bit too small. Okay. Usually when I scan artwork, I'm just going to write this down so everyone also knows. When I usually scan artwork, I'll scan it in color, 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 at 600 dpi. Okay, that's the best method to scan your artwork, even if you're doing black and white. After scanning the color, I would prep it. I would reduce it, reduce it 67%. And then after reducing it 67%, I would then lower this DPI from 600 DPI to 400 DPI. Okay, once you lower it to 400 DPI and you save it, that is the good resolution to send to your publisher, to Marvel or DC. So again, scan in color. After scanning it in color, reduce it to 600 DPI. No, I'm sorry. After you scan in color, you scan it in 600 DPI, and then you reduce it to 67%. After reducing it to 67%, you reduce it again to 400 DPI. After 400 DPI, then you can go and save it for the publisher. Between those few steps, you're gonna take the color image and convert it into a grayscale image. So to convert it, you just go to image on Photoshop image, mode, and then grayscale. And that's how you convert from a color image to a black and white image. Sometimes if you're inking in blue lines, you want to get rid of all your blues first, and then you convert it into grayscale. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below and ask me that question. If it's not clear, maybe I'll make a video on how to do that in the future. But for now, I'm going to continue critiquing some of this. So some of the background detail, the Batman looks pretty good. But some of the white detail, I'm going to go in here and kind of break up the white so it's not just like a solid black chunk that's over there. It kind of looks off. So what I will do, if I'm making this, I will use the white ink. And I would add some lines and I'll break up some of the lines into the black, so it's not that like a blunt image over here. So some of the white in here, I'll use a gel pen or a white ink, and then I'll just ink in some of that. Sometimes when I'm filling in blacks, I'll just noodle some of that details in there, so it has a more gradual fade. Like some of this, instead of it just like, I'm gonna zoom in to this area. So instead of just being like a white and all of a sudden just black, I would just use some white to like break up some of the black so it's more natural looking. Because when you look at images like pictures of rocks or a real picture of a some of the details there. You do see some lights and reflection in some of the black areas too. It's not a complete black. So I'm going to go in here and just add in a little bit of a texture over here. Some of this texture go around here. Okay, break up some of the line. This looks a little bit more natural. Just like how Batman has some of this white coming into the black over here. That's the same thing for backgrounds. So like over here, let's take a look at how the penciler drew it. Penciler, yeah, you actually added more, but just to make things look a little bit better, I would actually go in there, use a white gel pen, and kind of break it up, you know, going in there. It just looks a little bit nicer. Okay, so it's not just like, you know, like a black chunk that's like just there for. Just there, okay? So some of these hatch lines, let's see how the penciler did it. Penciler, you actually added more than what the penciler asked for. So with these lines over here, what I'll do is I'll cross hatch, and then I'll do like 3 times cross hatch, 2 times cross hatch, just to go over and then give it kind of a gray tone. So what I'll do is that I'll fill in all of this in black first, and then I'll use a light pen, a quill with a very light touch, and I'll hatch it, and then I'll start cross hatching it like this. And then after I do that, I'll rotate the canvas. After rotating the canvas, I'll go in here and then I'll triple cross hatch. Okay. After triple cross hatching, if I feel like I need it to be darker, I'll find another area and then I'll hatch it again, just to make it a little bit darker. Okay. So for example, this area, I'll just go in here and I'll find an area like an angle where I hatch it where it's different. So I'll hatch like this. And then finally, I'll go in there and I'll break it up. Let me rotate this back into place. So I'll use white ink or white gel pen, and I'll just go in there and I'll just break up some of this. So this gives a nice gradation feel. And then actually just hatching. So now when you have that black area, it's a little bit nicer. So it's not just like right here you have like black and then a medium value and then white. What you want is a more gradual gradation. I'm going to go in here and demonstrate with black color over here. Okay, so if I had all, let's see, let me just go back and let me erase all of this. Okay, I'm going to make actually I'm going to make all this black. Okay, I'm going closer. I'll use the black ink. I will hatch it. I'll space them evenly. Okay, I'll cross hatch. Now I add more down here. Okay, I'll rotate, and then I'll hatch again. And I'll try to keep all my hatch lines as consistent as I can. And I'll keep building upon that to have like a gray value. And then I'll just keep turning my page, and I'll just keep adding more. Like this. I'll rotate again, and I'll add more. If I feel like this area needs more, I just go out there and add a little bit more. Like this. And then I'll rotate again. And I'll just keep doing that until I have like a dark area. And then now that I have that dark gradation from a light value to a dark value, I'll use white ink, and then I'll start breaking into it like this. So right here, I'll just use white ink, and I'll start breaking up the line. I'll use a white gel pen, and I'll just start cutting into it. And I'll look at the direction I want to cross hatch perpendicular. Okay, like this. Okay, and now you have a more gradual from gray to dark. Okay, some here, and just break this up. And you can always go back and add more blacks in there if you like. So now if we take that gradation, it's more of a medium, a light to medium to dark. Okay, so there's more of a gradual soft flow to it. Now with the Batman cape, we do have like the penciler. When he drew some of these lines, I see that you took the liberty to cross hatch, which isn't that bad, but the cross hatch should continue all the way up here. So when I look at that, instead of cross hatching, the penciler wanted like straight, smooth lines. So in order to do that, to make it look a little bit nicer, I'm going to grab red color again so we can see what we're working on. Okay, and then bring this back up. So I would go in here, I would hatch these lines. Actually, I would actually rotate it until my hand can make that movement a little bit better. I would hatch these lines further apart, right over here. And then as I get to the dark area, I would go press down the quill or the brush thicker, and then have them closer. And then as I go further away, it'll be thinner. So I'm gonna go and do a few over here. So for example, I will go very lightly from some of the light areas, and then towards the dark area, I'll go darker and then closer. And then some of this area, I will go lighter and further distance. So you have like gradual, a light soft color to a dark to a soft, okay? But you're just doing that with longer strokes. So with longer strokes, we're just gonna go very light. We're just gonna go, let me see where's my brush? Why is it not drawing? Okay, here we go. Okay, so right over here, you're gonna go very light strokes. Why is it not drawing? Oh, that's because I'm off the page. Okay, we're gonna do it right over here. Very light strokes right across, and then as you get toward the dark area, have them closer, space them closer, and then come back out and then make it softer. Okay, you can zoom back out and do the same thing with a brush. Okay, so we just start very light. Let me use the black area. So you can go in here and go very light, and then going closer, and then come back out. That's the best way to do those lines, okay? And we're gonna take a look at some of the other areas of ink, and I'm gonna continue critiquing some of those. See, let me fix this. Okay, here we go. Okay, so same thing, the same technique that I just explained. What I would like you to do is go thick, and then if you need to taper off, just go thinner. Just go thinner over here, like that, okay? So space these evenly. I can't really see because the scan was in low resolution when I got it. Just make sure in the future scan high resolution on your computer and then bump it down. When you scan, some of you may think, why should I scan in higher resolution and bump it down to 400? Why don't I just scan in 400? The reason for that is because if you scan in higher resolution, your scanner picks up more image, and then after you bump it down, it still retains that amount of image. If you scan in the lower resolution, 100 resolution, 100 dpi, it's going to pick up less information, and then all of that will be pixelated like that. Just remember in the future, scan at 600 dpi, reduce it 67%, and then reduce it again to 400 dpi, and then convert the color image to a grayscale. Okay, let me write that. Okay, grayscale. Greyscale. So those are the steps in scanning and converting. So some of these lines here, I want you to taper these lines a little bit better. So when I say taper, I want you to close up these lines. Okay, very important. I stress a lot of my YouTube videos when I talk about tapering lines. You want these little triangles to be nicely sharp over here. See these little triangles on here? You want them to be sharp instead of having a blunt line. A blunt line is when it's just like a straight line like that, and you see these little rectangle shapes. It's better to have these taper lines close up a little bit. So you start thin, and you press down, and then once you press down, you close up those sharp tips. Okay, and you want them to be gradual and even. Okay, now Batman over here, we see this line. You have a thin line, and then you have a halo line. So if you have a halo line, you still need to think about a light source, like which area is in the shadows, which area is lighter. So that said, we're gonna go in here and make this area thicker, like that, and then go back in there if you absolutely need that halo, then you can go back in there and add that. Okay, so right over here. Okay, let's take a look at some of the other areas. So sometimes when you're inking the gel pen here, let me see what the pencil did. The pencil indicated. Yeah, so in this case, you really don't need that halo. I know sometimes inking halo is fun. The only time I use a halo is if I'm inking something and there's two black areas and I need to separate them. If there's not really a black area, you really don't need to have a halo. Okay, so this area here, I'm just gonna cover this up with black just to show you how it looks. Okay, I used to do the same thing when I first started doing comics. I would just halo everything, but sometimes like areas like for example here, you really don't need to have that halo because it's fading into the dark. Okay, the only time I would add a halo if there's like for example like this area, because it's black and black, I would add a halo. Let's see what the penciler did. See, even the penciler added that little white line there just to help separate the black area. But if it's like these little fins over here on Batman's glove over here, you really don't need a halo there. Okay, so that's not really necessary. So I'm just gonna erase some of that because you still see the fins over there, so that wasn't really necessary. You can if you want. That's just extra work that you don't really need. And sometimes if you're passing it off to the colors is gonna think, what am I gonna color on the halo there? It looks great in black and white, but sometimes you need to think about how the colorist is gonna approach doing that work. So here, same thing. Like for example, if the colorist was gonna color the background here, I'm just gonna use like a maybe the cave is going to be like a grayish color, okay? And I'm the colors. I'm going to color all this. Do I color this halo line the same gray? Do I color that same gray all the way around on the outside? So in this case, that's another example where we don't really need that halo on on these stones over here. I mean, it looks nice with it, but it's not really necessary. So I'm just gonna go in here and kind of like remove halo. No halo like on these areas, just to push it further in the background, unless you really need to emphasize it. Okay, so but then if you do a halo, anytime you do halo, you have to halo the whole thing. So the rule is, if it's not separating something and it's not necessary, you don't really need to do it. If you want to add a halo and it's necessary, then you should halo everything around it. Like for example, I'm going to use a white line. So for example, like right here, you halo this area, this glove over here. If you halo there, I would also halo here. I will also halo here. I will also halo here. And then I will also halo the rest of the glove all the way around. But in this case, you really don't need to add that halo there, because the whole glove and the arm is white. So it's not like, if this glove was black, and then the whole hand was black, like a black glove or something, then you need a halo to help separate. Okay, some of the lines on the bottom, that water texture, I want it's better to get okay, so we'll look at the pencils here. We're gonna take a look at this area. I'm gonna grab red color to do the markup so you can see. We're gonna look at this area. When we look at the pencils, you notice that the pencil, when he draws them, is really sharp, because it's water. You want the water ripples to kind of be like really sharp and fine point. So some of these, they're kind of blunt. Okay, so this one here is sharp, which is good, but this one's blunt. If you're inking with a brush or quill, try to start very thin. Try to start very thin and then go in there and press down. Or you can always go thick and then go thin. That way you have thinner lines. Same with the other side. You see these blunts here? You really want those lines to be a little bit thinner, okay? So kind of like when you're drawing, imagine I use this example all the time to a lot of my students. Imagine you're flying an airplane and you're landing. You don't want that airplane to land abruptly to get a thick line. You want that line to slowly land, so you get a thin line, a gradual line. Just like if you're inking and you're inking with brush and you want that thin line, you're on an airplane and the airplane takes off. You don't want that line to just stop like that. You want it to gradually take off and have that sharp line. So that in those cases, that works for these lines here. You can either go from dark to light, like this, or you can go from light to the dark. Just gradually control that brush, ink in the air, and then slowly ink onto the paper. That's the best way. Okay, we're gonna take a look at some of the other Batman areas. So here, I noticed that you added halo there. So I know halo is fun, but you really don't need it. So I'm gonna beef up the line on this eye over here and this shape. We want that line weight to be a little bit thicker, okay? Good job on the hatching. I can't really see it because the scan was low resolution. I don't know if this is mustache or beard, or it's just like pencil dirt or something. This area here on the forehead, you should gradually do that transition from a thin line, okay, thin line, and then as you go towards the black area, it goes thicker. Okay, so I'm going to do that here because we can't see it because it's so pixelated. You want that rendering over here. We're going to do it on black. We're going to go thin, and then as you get towards that black area, go closer and go thicker, like this. So you have a nice transition, and then you're going to start tapering those lines right over here. Okay, these taper lines are like right over here. Okay. Otherwise, see these bats. Yeah, I can't really see. Like if I was thinking, let me see how the penciler drew the bats. Yeah, the bats. Yeah, so these lines follow the direction. Let me see if you follow the direction. Yeah, it looks like you're going in different directions. If the penciler is going that direction, I would just keep it consistent and make sure it's kind of like going in the same direction. I like that you're adding more texture to it, but the penciler, he just drew kind of like a silhouette, like a gray silhouette. He didn't really want the bats to be partially detailed, and then like the rest of it's like kind of like not detailed here. But other than that, the line weights are pretty good. Your lines, the way you're controlling lines is pretty smooth. I don't see a lot of shakiness in your lines. Sometimes it's quicker if you draw a line faster. There's a few lines that are kind of shaky. I'm gonna like this cape over here. Sometimes I'll have a French curve, or if I don't have a French curve and I'm gonna freehand it, what I'll do is, again, I'll look for where the beginning of the line is and where that line is. I'll make that motion to see if I can ink that line. Okay, if not, then I'll rotate it, and then I'll see if I can mimic that motion, and if I can't, I'll just ink that line quickly. I'm gonna use red ink so you guys can see what I'm doing. So I look at where I start that line, right over here, and where I end that line, right over here. Okay, and then from here, I'll do that ghost line to make sure I can draw the line. If not, I'll rotate it to where the position of my right hand can work, or your left hand, and then you just go here and just draw the line quickly. Okay, so when you're inking, sometimes you don't have to follow that one line exactly how it is, as long as you get that line smooth. Okay, when you're inking other people's pencils, the pencils is just a indicator of where they want the lines. Your job is to make that line as nice as you can. So you see how I'm inking this line? I can repeat that line over and over again because my hand is like set onto that line area. Like for example, I'm just going to rotate this back and give you another demonstration. So if I had a line that goes from here to here, I'll do a ghost line and I'll make sure I can mimic that line, and then every line I do with my hand, see, I'm just drawing, it's just the same line over again. Okay, so I can space them apart one at a time, and that line is the same. This takes practice. The best way to practice is to always look at where you start that line and where you end the line. So this is today's art review and critique of the Batman, pencils by Seraph, and then here we go. And this is from one of my patrons who sent me this. So if you're interested in me doing an art review and critique, check out my Patreon. It's patreon.com/WaldenWongArt. And over there, there's different tiers of mentorship, as well as looking at tips and tricks of how I do inking work. You can also learn and just watch me ink over there. There's also different tiers that you can subscribe to. And if you want to learn more about me, my name is Walden Wong Art, and you can check my website, waldenwongart.com. Over there, there's galleries, videos, tips, Amazon store that you can order prints and original art from me. So check that out. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already, and smash that like button. Please like, share, and subscribe. So until next time, hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned, and there'll be more. Take care and have a good day, and keep on drawing. Remember, always look at where you start the line and where you end the line. Never look at the destination of the line. Look at where you start, where you end, and then just quickly draw that line. Take care and have a good day. Bye-bye.